Dear friends, I welcome you to my channel. I am Berezovets. Today I am going to discuss with you a very important topic, the formation of the future team of the future 47th President of the United States, Donald Trump, which will significantly depend not only on the outlines of his administration, but also on the policies that the United States, along with them and the entire West, will begin to implement in the coming years and possibly even decades. Earlier, I recorded a video dedicated to then candidate for Vice President of the United States from the Republican Party, J.D. Vance, Trump's current partner and future Vice President in his administration. And even then I mentioned that the legacy of Trump's Hoban, the ideology of the Make America Great Again magic, will obviously continue. As much as many of Trump's opponents, not only in the Democratic camp but also within the Republican Party, would not want this. Moreover, Trump has consistently surrounded himself with loyalists since his first presidential term, and his decision to exclude two people from his team whom he suspected of disloyalty. This refers to Mike Pompeo, the former CIA director and former Secretary of State, and Nikki Haley, the former representative of the United States and the United Nations, precisely because of their disloyalty, as they have already expressed their intention to run in the next presidential elections from the Republican Party. Thus, they will almost certainly compete with Jay Diven, who will likely attempt to run for any vice presidency after the current president is unable or unwilling to run. The next presidential term, as we know, is the current term for Trump, which is also final according to the American Constitution. He cannot run for more than 2 terms. And it is quite predictable that if Jay Diven serves until the end of Trump's presidential term, a caveat must be made here, as presidents can change their vice presidents. This has happened multiple times in American history, either due to corruption scandals, as it was in the 1970s, or for other reasons. However, the vice president can be changed. This is not prohibited, and the president can choose another candidate. We remember this, including from the famous and popular series House of Cards, where such a swap occurred. But there is also a downside. If the president, for one reason or another, primarily due to resignation or death, cannot fulfill his presidential duties until the end of the presidential term, then the vice president automatically becomes the president of the United States. Therefore, this situation is two-edged. And that is why attention should be paid to Jay Diven very closely. But here in our story, another person appears whose emergence probably would not have been predicted a few months ago. No one, and this person is not just close to the future president of the United States, he is the only one from outside the family circle who was with Trump at his Mar-a-Lago residence, his favorite residence in Florida, when Trump was awaiting the announcement of the election results that took place on November 5th. And this person today has the greatest influence on the formation of his team. The speech, of course, is about the famous businessman, philanthropist, visionary, and the richest entrepreneur in America, Elon Musk. If it weren't for the fact that Elon Musk was born not in the territory of the United States, but in the Republic of South Africa, it is almost certain that Elon Musk would have presidential ambitions. And with his money and capabilities, we understand that this is absolutely realistic and quite feasible. Moreover, for the current presidential campaign of Donald Trump, according to estimates by Western American journalists, Elon Musk spent a sum of $75 million US. The amount seems astronomical even for Elon Musk, a person whose fortune increased by 29% immediately after the announcement of the results of the US presidential elections. And like any businessman, probably, no need to say probably, like any businessman, Elon Musk expects to get this money back, either with money or opportunities or influence. But at least he has already gained the influence of the new Trump administration. He has effectively acquired it. And it is this person who today has the most direct influence without holding any official positions for now. He has the most direct influence on the formation of Trump's team. He cannot become president, he cannot become vice president, but he can become a governor, he can become a minister, he can become a senator, a congressman, or an advisor, or just a person without a portfolio, without a position, who nevertheless will have the most decisive influence. So on the formation. Trump's politics, it is this person, judging by the analysis I am doing, who is preparing to come to Kiev in the coming months. It is quite possible that this sensational event may happen even before January 20th, the date of Trump's official inauguration as president in Washington. By the way, I was a guest at his inauguration 8 years ago in 2016, and I remember it. I remember that inauguration as if it were now. So Elon Musk may come to Kiev in an unofficial status, of course, since Trump is not and will not be president until January 20th. But Musk, as a businessman, a person directly involved in Trump's negotiation process, can come to Kiev. Will Musk come to Moscow or Sochi? This looks, I agree, too bold even for Elon Musk, at least for today. However, I would not completely rule this out either. Well, today we will also talk, besides Musk, about the peace plan presented by Zelensky, which, as the leading British publication, Financial Times writes, was largely written with the involvement of Republicans and was specifically tailored for Trump to interest him in these very proposals. The British publication Financial Times reports that the advisors who participated in preparing the victory plan, which Zelensky presented in September, including Trump, stated that allies in Europe and the United States, including high-ranking officials of the US Republican Party, were involved in developing proposals that ultimately prompted the Trump administration to cooperate. One of the ideas, there are two ideas in total that were presented. The first proposal concerns replacing American troops stationed in Europe within the framework of NATO's European Command. And it is assumed that they may be stationed in Europe already after the official end of the war. That is, after the signing of peace agreements, again, taking into account that the Trump administration will coordinate and moderate the negotiation process between Kiev and Moscow. And finally, the second proposal. Ukraine itself proposed that Trump share important natural resources. As the Financial Times writes, this proposal was personally developed by Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, who is known as one of the representatives of the Republican Party who actively supports Kyiv in the fight against Moscow's aggression. It is assumed that Trump is most likely to have expressed extreme interest in both ideas. This was stated to a British publication by one of the advisors who was informed about the meeting with Zelensky. Most likely, it refers to some Ukrainian source. In addition, within the framework of those minerals that interested Trump and Musk the most in this case. It concerns minerals such as titanium, of which Ukraine has about 20% of the world's reserves, as well as germanium, gallium, and quartz, which are necessary for microelectronics production. In addition, Ukrainian businesses are also actively developing their proposals for the Trump administration, particularly regarding allocation for American businessmen, the most profitable sectors for investment in Ukraine. It is also obvious that Trump will be very interested in the idea of a ban on Chinese technologies, which the Ukrainian government may adopt if the Americans can completely replace them with American equipment. In his case, both Musk and Trump, especially Trump, who is known for his protectionist policies towards American business, this idea should definitely be liked. And the third point, let's say informal, is the replacement of the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States, currently Oksana Markarova, whom the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Republican Mike Johnson, accused of interference due to organizing Zelensky's trip to Pennsylvania, where Johnson reminded about the non-exceedance of one of the representatives of the Republican Party. It is very important to choose the right person here, who will be most liked, who will best fit the management style of Trump and Elon Musk. That is, considering this, it could include not just a career diplomat, but perhaps even a business representative, including one who has worked in the American market. Well, this is, so to speak, just a suggestion for now. And the first idea, to deploy Ukrainian troops, partially replacing American ones, should definitely appeal to Trump, as he has long said that Europeans should pay for their own security, and Americans should not have to do that. And thus, if Ukraine places its trained professional units on the territory of the European Union, the Americans will be able to free them up for addressing other directions. In particular, regarding the direction of Taiwan's defense, by the way, today Forbes wrote that there is, let's say, confirmed information that Taiwan could transfer its own systems to Ukraine. If this is all confirmed, it will be a huge sensation, especially considering the quite tense relations with China and the role that China formally and informally plays in resolving the war between Russia and Ukraine. Now let's move on to these very appointments that are already being prepared in the administration, and in particular Bloomberg and BBC are already reporting on them. Now let's move on to the most likely candidates for positions in Donald Trump's new cabinet. The main candidate for the position of Secretary of State has become Florida Senator Marco Rubio, a 53-year-old descendant of a family of immigrants from Cuba, a person who has been a very firm opponent of the Kremlin for a long time. However, including him, by the way, he criticized Trump, calling him a fraud and the most vulgar person to ever run for president. However, Rubio, like many, including Jay Diven, changed his tune and became one of the most consistent, loyal supporters of candidate Trump. He also advocated for reducing military support for Ukraine, although at the very beginning of the war, he actively pushed for expanding the military aid package to Kyiv. However, he later stated that this aid needs to be controlled in every possible way. In addition, he stated that the policies of the Biden and Harris duo are leading the situation to a deadlock and need to be ended. The war should be resolved through negotiations, and Kyiv should not expect to regain all the territories that were occupied by Russia. He also voted this year against providing military aid to Ukraine from the United States. Finally, another post, a key post of the president's advisor on national security. Most likely it will be taken by a former Special Forces member, a 50-year-old congressman from Florida. Here, he is a fellow countryman of Marco Rubio. Mike Waltz, a veteran of the war in Afghanistan and a longtime consistent loyal supporter of Trump. It is known that he was demobilized from the U.S. Army already with the rank of colonel. This is a colonel of the U.S. Special Forces who participated in many complex covert operations on the territory of Afghanistan. That is, this is a brave person, a person with a consistent, so to speak, position. Having very strong connections with the American military and intelligence services, this is exactly the person Trump needs most in this position. Well, of course, against the background of Jake Sullivan, the current advisor to President Biden, they even look, if you look at the photo of Mike Waltz and compare it with the photo of Sullivan, this contrast, so to speak, is frankly striking. Waltz is known also as a consistent critic of China's foreign policy. In particular, he advocated for the adoption of a bill aimed at reducing U.S. dependence on Chinese minerals. He also advocated for the continuation of aid to Ukraine, but with conditions of strict control over American taxpayers' funds. He argued that it is necessary to conduct an audit and tighten the provision of further aid to Kyiv. In addition, several other candidates became known, in particular for the position of Secretary of Homeland Security. Trump plans to appoint an American. Her name is Kristi Noem. She is the governor of South Dakota. She is 52 years old. And this is a key position that will also involve strict matters. Regarding policies on illegal immigrants, he plans to appoint Tom Homan to the position of another responsible official who would oversee the deportation of all illegal immigrants, who is already referred to by Bloomberg as the border czar. Susie Wiles, the first woman to head the White House administration, has already entered. Her appointment has already been officially announced. It is known that she worked with Kediller, meaning she was responsible for the schedule of Republican President Ronald Reagan. We see that serious bureaucrats have already appeared in this administration. And finally, another key position in the American diplomatic hierarchy. The position of U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations will most likely be held by Elise Stefanik, a Republican from New York. She is among those Republicans who have been most opposed to U.S. foreign aid to Ukraine. That is, her rating for aid to Ukraine is considered quite low. And let's put it this way. Among all possible appointments, Stefanik's appointment looks the most problematic for Ukraine. However, I wouldn't discount the possibility that both Waltz and Rubio could also seriously change their position on supporting Ukraine under Trump's influence. That is, their public statements show that their position has changed repeatedly. And what about Musk? Musk has actually demonstrated what awaits Ukraine, obviously, in the near future. Considering Musk's influence, which I detailed today at the beginning of our segment, Musk, in particular, supported the post. He wrote in response to a post by South African businessman David Sachs. He stated that on X he wrote about the most unknown story in Washington. It is about how much occupied Ukrainian money is trying to buy influence. It wasn't just Hunter Biden. Many of those who fueled the war are funded. He means Ukraine. To that, Musk wrote to his South African compatriot, yes. That is, he made an accusation that Ukraine allegedly bought support in Washington with the help of corrupt money. Well, actually, this reflects a specific way of thinking, let's say, and the modus operandi. That will guide a person, an unofficial official, who nevertheless has the most direct and serious impact on the course of not only foreign policy, domestic policy, and most importantly, the personnel policy of the administration of future President Donald Trump. These are our friends. You see, I called today's video all of Trump's retinue, by analogy with the famous A Blockbuster, filmed in the 70s. Therefore, these parallels, so to speak, are becoming more and more obvious. Well, what role Musk will play, destructive or on the contrary constructive, is something everyone must decide for themselves. However, considering Elon Musk's past background and quite specific knowledge and views on history, we can be sure that scandals are inevitable here. By no means. In any case, these are our news for today, friends. Subscribe to the channel. We have almost reached the milestone of 1 million subscribers on my channel. Let's do this together. Let's do it even faster. Take care of yourselves. Thank you to all the sponsors, partners, and subscribers of the channel, friends, for your invaluable support. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the armed forces, glory to the special forces, glory to the territorial defense forces. Major Taras Berezovets. Until we meet again, bye-bye.